Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of your weekly rundown. With you, as always, is Kayson Davis, and of course, with me, I have my co-host, my guy, all the way back in New York, my guy, Rich Perez. What's up, Rich?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Another week in the books. Bunch of things happening.
Definitely. I guess to start off, we can start off with our own New York Football Giants. They were able to squeak out a close victory over Washington after everything we've talked about with them over the last couple of weeks. How maybe it's time to blow it up, maybe tank the season a little bit. They are now right there from being number one in the NFC East with a big game coming up next week against the Eagles. So, with how bad everything has looked so far, just the ups, the downs, the being up in games, giving away victories, how great or how should the Giants feel right now with a chance to maybe have their biggest game of the season next week?
All you got to think about is win one game at a time. Don't get too ahead of yourself. But it's crazy. It's crazy because number one, they're not gonna have a winning record this season. Again, they're 2-7, I think, something like that. 2-7. And the NFC East is so bad that 2-7 still keeps you in play to win the division. So, this is going to be the biggest game of the season with them going up against Philly. It was a crazy game last time they played Philly in Philly. Nothing ever goes well for the Giants when they go to Philly. So, I mean, you could say it's a winnable game, because number one, Philly's got so many injuries that they're dealing with. Philly's got so many injuries that they're dealing with right now that they're really not showing the best team that they can put out there. Like, they've got a bunch of practice squad guys thrown out there, even on the offensive line. And then Carson Wentz, he's stepped up when they needed them to, but it's not like he's been this all-elite player that, like, a couple of years ago we were talking about back when he was in the MVP conversation. So it's definitely a winnable game from that standpoint. They were able to beat the Washington football team last week. And, you see this team is developing, from the defense on. And what it seems like, and what we've been talking about, is it's almost like Daniel Jones has kind of been holding them back a little bit because he's constantly throwing the ball away and whatnot. Against Washington in last week's game, he didn't turn the ball over or anything like that. There was one instance where he almost did, but kudos to him for holding on to the ball. And, he was pretty much a game manager. So, they didn't win the game because of him, but he didn't put them in a position to lose either. So I guess it's kind of what you want to see. It's only the second game in his career where he didn't turn the ball over. He's got 20-something starts. So, progress, sure, but you want to see him step up moving forward. Like you said, he makes these amazing throws at times, so you want to see that moving forward, but, limit the turnovers. It's a big deal, but all in all, the Giants are in an interesting position. I think Joe Judge has done an amazing job with what he's working with. Pat Graham, the defensive coordinator, he was doing amazing things in Miami with less talent, and now he's over in New York doing the same thing. So,
yeah, I think it puts the Giants in just a very interesting spot for kind of a couple of reasons. One, we talked about how it could be a big game next week. I think it is definitely a big game because it's like you said, they're going to probably end the season with a losing record. So it's like we talked about it the last couple of weeks. It's like I guess we were kind of a little premature. Do you start tanking? But it's still like, do you want to win this game and maybe go for that number one kind of spot in the NFC East and kind of make it into the playoffs? Or with the problems kind of you just talked about with Daniel Jones and things like that, do you kind of, like we talked about a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, do you start heading maybe down a little bit and head for that high draft pick to maybe get one of those quarterbacks and things like that? Because it's like you can make it, but are you really a good team and be in the playoffs? Like, is it worth kind of making it to the playoffs right now to get bounced out in the first round with the losing record? So, depending on how you look at it, was it really a successful season? Like, yes, it's successful because you guys got in, but at the same time, maybe it's not successful, but just because how bad the NFC East has really been. So it's like you got in, but like the conference is just so bad, so somebody has to win type of thing. And then we talked about that we don't know kind of how it's going forward with Daniel Jones and things like that. Last week, he, like you just said, he was able to kind of maybe learn a few things. He didn't turn the ball over as much. So if that keeps going, maybe that's a good thing. But still, it's kind of, he's still up in the air. We talked about it numerous of times. We don't know if the GM's going to be back. We don't know if Joe Judge, this is his quarterback for the future and things like that. So I think just next week, a lot of things is kind of up in the air, maybe a lot of unanswered questions. So I think it's just a big game in that sense to kind of determine which way is the team really want to kind of go. I know everyone kind of wants to win and nobody just wants to tank it, but if they do end up getting that number one spot and getting in, is it really kind of worth it right now?
Well, me personally, I'm not really, especially more specifically in the NFL than any other league, I'm not really a fan of tanking because, I think we kind of see with the Giants now, they've been so bad for so long that, they're starting to look like a better team. But now that you're starting to look like a better team, you just don't know how to win games. A lot of these games that they've been losing, because they've been competitive in a lot of games outside of the San Francisco game. A lot of it's just not being able to close out or even, just come up when you need to. Definitely a lot of that's on Daniel Jones with his turnovers, but it's in other areas of the game as well. So, I mean, like I said, I'm not a big proponent when it comes to football anyway of tanking. Like we thought Miami, the Dolphins were tanking last year, right? Like they were really just that bad of a team. They started getting rid of specific pieces and everything. And then like something happened at the halfway point where they started to look like a really good team. At least like, they were going to be competitive. They didn't have the pieces, right? They didn't have these all level talents there, but they were competing. They were starting to figure things out. And, they ended up getting the quarterback that they wanted. We're watching him play. We'll talk about him later, by the way, but we're watching good things happen there now. And I think had they gone on to tank, the things that we're seeing from them now maybe wouldn't have been a reality. So from the Giants standpoint, you talk about them, do they want to win and make the playoffs just to get bounced out first round? I think for these young guys, it's a good experience to have, to be able to say, just get that under your belt. Say, I made it to the playoffs, even though we lost first round, like we got a taste of that, and now we can, have something moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely see that point. Also, I guess if anything we've learned from the Giants and over the last 20 years is that they definitely can maybe come out of a wild card and make it to a Super Bowl. So we've seen all the comparisons to kind of Daniel Jones and Eli Manning, kind of how they play for the same quarterback. Kind of you saw the videos and I'm making some of the same movements and things like that. So if it's anything close to that, maybe just getting in might be great, and you think maybe you can pull off the Eli Manning type of thing, get maybe surprise run to the Super Bowl. So I think getting in is definitely probably worth it.
Yeah, man, for sure. And I think like I said, the great thing about what I've seen from Joe Judge's teams is they're going to compete. These guys, they go out there and they compete every time. So if they were to somehow get in, wouldn't say like, hey, that the Giants are going to go out and upset somebody, but I don't think they're going to be a pushover either, the way that he's got them playing.
Yeah, definitely. You brought it up on this show numerous of times, just about how they look like they really want to play for him. It's like you said, they lost a couple games where it's just like maybe down the stretch you kind of just folded in and things like that. But they look like they really want to play for him. So you figure getting in, like you said, you get that experience and things like that. And like I said, just in that wild card. And you talk about different leagues, how tanking's not kind of a thing in football. It's because it's a little different in basketball because, like, you got to beat someone like 4 times. And it's football with that just one game elimination type thing. All you need is a run. And New York fans know that kind of more than anybody, especially the last 20 years, like I said.
And it's a high. If they can somehow come out and beat the Eagles, they're on a high going into the bye week because, they got the bye week. And then let's just look at the teams that they're playing moving forward. They got the Cincinnati Bengals. That's a winnable game. The Seahawks, Obviously that's not a game you expect them to win, but you see them compete. Same thing with Arizona. That's an up in the air game as well, the way Arizona's playing. But then following that, you got the Browns. That's a winnable game. Baltimore, not so much. And then you end the season with the Cowboys, which is the way the Cowboys look. That's another game that you would say that's winnable. So there's a lot of football on the table for them to play and continue to put themselves in a position to win a division that's just not that good.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, the division is just not that good with Zach Prescott going down and things like that. So, from what we've seen from the Giants since that Miami trip, just them getting in and things like that, even though it's not probably be a winning season, I think it'd be great to kind of see the New York Giants back in the playoffs. And like I said, we're going to be hoping for miracles. So that's what we know over here, I guess.
Yeah, man. Most def. So definitely gonna see what's going on there. That's the only New York team I really wanted to talk about. By the way, the Jets played on Monday Night Football against the Patriots. They were up a lot in that game. Then they lost. So, seems like Sam Darnold, even though he didn't play because he's dealing with a shoulder injury, almost seems like his days are numbered in New York. Wish him the best moving forward with wherever he ends up going. And, hopefully the Jets get something right, or else if Trevor Lawrence comes out, good luck to you, young man.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully it's time for a change, so Sam Darnold kind of has to go. It's kind of going to have to be what it is. I think it would be best for both parties to kind of maybe part ways. But, sometimes all you need is one great player to come out, and you wouldn't want to say that, Trevor Lawrence would be in that kind of situation, but he may be that one piece that turns everything around. So you hope for the best, and good luck to everybody moving forward. But
yeah, I mean that was supposed to be Sam Darnold, right? He had some bad circumstances that he dealt with since he got to New York, and it hasn't worked out. Doesn't seem like it's going to work out. So, how many times are you going to get another guy in there? They've had so many quarterbacks over the years. I'm a firm believer in putting your quarterback in the right situation to succeed. The Jets just haven't put any, even when Mark Sanchez was there, when they went to the AFC Championship 2 years in a row, they didn't put Mark Sanchez in a position to succeed. They didn't even really develop him over there. It was just like Rex Ryan put together this great defense. They're going to do what they do. And Mark, when you have the ball in your hand, be a game manager. Don't mess anything up. Let the defense do what they did. And, he wasn't better for it. He didn't bring them to he didn't, mess it up for them because you just made sure he was a game manager, but it wasn't like they got there on the heels of his game or anything like that. So, the Jets really got to get this right, man. I know Joe Douglas is going into year 3, and, the way it sounds from everybody is Adam Gase isn't going anywhere, as much as I don't agree with that. And then you got the actual team owner of the Jets coming back now that, and I'm not getting political here, but truth be told, now that, Donald Trump will no longer be the president, you got Woody Johnson, who was serving in his cabinet, coming back from that to retake over the team. So a lot of things going on with the New York Jets.
Yeah, it's kind of becoming one of those things. Like we talked about it a lot on here. Just they got to start from the top down and kind of, like you said, get this right. Maybe kind of start a lot of things over. But I was gonna say it's kind of starting to get to like a New York Knicks type of thing. It's like we can kind of maybe beat this horse every week if we really wanted to. And I think Jets fans have took enough beating from us. So I'm gonna kind of end it here for you guys and just hope things turn around for you guys.
Yeah, man, most def. I did bring up Tua earlier, though. It was a shootout. No, I don't know. You're over in Miami. I don't know if you got to catch that or not. Shootout between him and Kyler Murray. It was definitely something to watch because his first game as a starter, he didn't really wow you. He only threw for 95 yards. They won the game, but, it was just nothing spectacular from Tua. He didn't lose it for him either. But this game against the Arizona Cardinals, and the Arizona Cardinals have been it doesn't shock me that they've been very good because they were pretty scrappy a year ago. But him and Kyler Murray had a shootout with each other, going back and forth. Tua goes out there, he goes 20 for 28, throws for 248 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Kid seems like the real deal. I mean, it's only been 2 games, but he's been great. I mean, even like everybody's bigging up Justin Herbert right now, and I'll admit that I was wrong. I was not a Justin Herbert fan coming into this draft. I watched him at Oregon and said he definitely makes spectacular throws, but he never did it on a consistent basis. He's definitely proven me wrong at the NFL level. And, I'm a fan of Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is going to be a very good quarterback in this league. He's already shown great poise and things like that over in Cincinnati. But Tua, he's looked everything, especially in his past game, looked every bit of what he was advertised to be coming into the draft.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of people knew his talent was there. I think a lot of things that kind of scared maybe teams and people away was just his injury. And with hip injuries, it's kind of tough to see how people are going to come back. You've seen, I guess maybe those are smaller guys, but like Isaiah Thomas, that have Johnny Flynn have those little hip injuries and kind of not be able to recover. I know that's also basketball too, but that's just the point that, hip injuries sometimes is kind of iffy about how things will go. So we always knew that the talent was there. We knew he can play. We just, would he be able to get out there and play? Like a lot of us didn't expect him to play this year, but he was able, like his hip checked out better than I guess a lot of us expected. And you talk about putting people in the right position. We talked about this on here a couple of weeks ago. They gave him the team at the right time when the team was kind of playing well. They were kind of extended and things like that. So for him to get in there at that time where the team is kind of playing well, kind of puts him in a perfect position where there's not too much pressure on him. So it's great that he was able to have games like this, and you kind of like what I was just saying, with him be able to come in and not as much pressure on him and things like that. The team's already playing well. It should be maybe a little easier for him to have great games like this maybe every now and then. And it's from now, it's just, can he keep it up?
Yeah, for sure, man. And you mentioned him coming in and everything like that. Like it was the perfect time to bring him in. You're competing to win a division. You're in the second place right now. The Patriots haven't. I mean, they did just get their first win yesterday, but they've had some bad breaks and things like that, and they're only a 3-win team now. But they're in second place, right behind the Buffalo Bills, in a position to win the division. They know what they have in this kid, regardless of if Ryan Fitzpatrick is a better quarterback than him right now. We know that putting this kid in for what we know he is and what he could be will be better for the future. Because at the end of the day, Ryan Fitzpatrick has a ceiling, and we know what his ceiling is. Tua, we don't know what he could be in this league. We expect great things, and he's going out there and showing it. And we might have talked about it before when the move was made. It's like when the Giants moved on from Kurt Warner to get Eli Manning in there. They excuse me. They weren't playing terrible football. They were still in a position to win the division and make the playoffs when they went to Eli Manning. But it was just like Kurt. You're still a good quarterback. We know who you are, but for our future, we think it's best to put him in right now. And even though they had a rough season that year, it ended up working out for the Giants in the long run. And I kind of suspect that that'll be the case with the Miami Dolphins. And I mean, he's already having a better start than Eli did. Like I said, they're in the playoff hunt. They could possibly win the division, and we'll see how it's going. Miami is, man, if you're a sports fan in Miami, it's a great time. The Hurricanes are back. The U football team is doing their thing. The Heat just made the NBA Finals. The Marlins made the playoffs. Like, it's booming over there.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great time to maybe be in Miami and be a sports fan. For two, I think that's a kind of perfect example that you brought up there. I think, like I was kind of just saying before, it was more of would he be able to be healthy enough? Like I said, the talent was kind of always there. We knew he would be kind of one of the top guys, top quarterbacks. So now that he's healthy, he's able to show kind of what he can do. It's great to see him out there and things like that. And we just hope he can keep it up going forward. And I think he will be able to.
Yeah, man, most def. I'm real interested to watch him moving forward, man. I kind of makes me want to get like Red Zone just to be able to watch those games and stuff like that, because I've been anxious to definitely watch and play all these guys, man. Like I'm gonna be excited to actually watch Joe Burrow go against that Giants defense in 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks from now. So, this is a pretty good quarterback class coming out, man. I can't sit and say I don't like what I see from these top 3 guys.
Yeah, definitely. And we talked about the other 2 quarterbacks that's coming out next year too. So you think that the league is in a great hands going forward with the kind of some of the great quarterbacks coming up. So I think, like you said, if you can get red zone, or if anyone out there can get red zone, they're definitely worth watching.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating it, but if you can find streams too, you can go ahead. But I'm not advocating it though. You better spend that money. What I did,
wink.
yeah, right. What I did also want to bring up though, because it was about a week ago, you wanted to put me on the spot, so I'm back. I am back. Because the New Orleans Saints on Sunday Night Football, before the half, it was 31-0. Hey, I've been saying it since he signed with the Bucs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not going to win that division. Stephen A. Smith want to get up on his high horse saying they're going to the Super Bowl. They're not going to the Super Bowl either. I'm being completely objective when I say it too. They got a lot of pieces and all that. They're a very good football team. When we talked about it last time, I mentioned some specific circumstances with Green Bay. I didn't think they won that game in the way they did, specifically because of Tom Brady. He should have lost to the Giants, but Daniel Jones gave them 10 points all because just him alone, not anything else. He was throwing it to the other team or whatever. They almost lost that game. Got a break off a quarterback play, and then they play a real team who got their weapons back in Michael Thomas and whatnot. And they showed out. The final score was about 38-3. Just saying, man. I'm just like, I think I'll be proven right. Father Time is undefeated.
I think it's too early to tell. I think the Saints have been together for a while. We know how great they've been in the regular season and things like that. So with the Bucs are kind of just coming together this year. They got a lot of new pieces and things like that. So I think when it's a big game like that, chemistry and things like that kind of bleed in. Tom Brady didn't play too great. I think it was AB's first game, if I'm not mistaken, too.
I don't know. I'm not sure if he played or not. I gotta look that up.
I could have sworn I seen someone on ESPN talking about that. Tom Brady tried to target him a lot in that game. I may be wrong, but they have a lot of new pieces, kind of like what I was saying. And the Saints been together for a while. They're a team that's been, like I said, great in the regular season. They just haven't been able to come up in the playoffs. It's mostly the same team for the last couple of years. So I think it's tough to keep beating.
Oh yeah, you're right. He did. My bad, cutting you off. He did. Yeah, 3 receptions for 31 yards.
Yeah,
5 targets.
Like I said, yeah. So they're still trying to work some things out with some new players and things like that. The Saints have been together for a while, so I think come playoff time, when they have some more time to be together, and we know the Saints may shrink a little bit if how things have worked out for them for the last couple of years. So I think the Bucs still have a chance. So it's still early before I just give it over to the Saints.
Yeah, and I did want to correct you, by the way. I did not say the Patriots would be better than the Buccaneers. I said they would be better with Cam than they were with Brady a year ago. And just like how you said you want to see it develop a little bit, I'm under the same thing because, like I said, you go out and watch these games. They've had some tough breaks. They've been in every one. They're a couple calls and plays away from having a winning record. So I don't know if they're going to win the division the way things are going to make the playoffs. But, we'll see what happens. And for all you people, because I got a friend of mine who wants to get a Cam too. For all you people that want to say these things about Cam, and to be very serious right now, Cam contracted the coronavirus. We know one thing about the coronavirus, and I brought it up before. I'm going to bring it up again. There are lingering effects to this virus after you get over it. We've seen people with who've been in perfect health, who, now they can't feel their feet or they're suddenly gone blind or whatever. I mentioned, before some of the basketball players like Kendrick Nunn and whatnot who had the virus, and, Russell Westbrook that, didn't really look like themselves until very, later on. So I'm just saying, I kind of saw this coming once I heard the news that Cam got the virus. I think he's going to start to get back into what we saw early on in the season before that happened. So, let it just roll a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. It's just so many unknowns with the virus and things like that. It's unfortunate, like you said, that he's kind of contracted the virus. But there's still time to see how things go. I think with the virus, things is just so unexpected. You'd hope kind of, he's able to kind of get back to 100% and be able to show. But there's still a lot of games left, and hopefully, good thing about football is they play once a week, so it's like the week's kind of, it's not like multiple games every day, so he has a lot of time to rest and things like that. So you're hoping give them by the end of the season that they're able to sneak in and kind of maybe he can prove you right, because right now, you got to use the virus as an excuse.
Breaking news on the rundown from Brian Windhorst of ESPN. The Phoenix Suns have had discussions about acquiring Chris Paul from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Sources tell him as well as Tim Bontemps story on its way. How you feeling?
It makes sense. We talked about it on here last week about just what Phoenix might do. I told you that they're trying to build on that success that they had last year. I talked about how they needed a point guard. They've been needed a point guard. So you talked about maybe they'll draft LaMelo Ball, but I thought they needed that point guard to put next to Devin Booker. So this is kind of goes with what I was saying last week. They need that point guard. We've seen Chris Paul's able to do. And I think that this would be a great trade for them. This is definitely what they need. I think Chris Paul's going to be back with Monty Williams. I think they were together in New Orleans, maybe Chris Paul's last season there. So they're going to be back together, teaming up with Devin Booker. I like it. It's early, but I give them a playoff spot if they get it done.
I agree. I also give them a playoff spot. I'm on record saying Chris Paul proved me wrong. When I thought it was kind of over for him, he showed he still got a lot of basketball left in him. And he played some very good ball, took Oklahoma City to heights nobody saw them going last season. At one point, I think for about like a month into the second half of the season, they had like the best record in the league or second best record in the league. So, he's a Hall of Fame point guard. And who better to pair up with Devin Booker than and DeAndre Ayton than a point guard like Chris Paul. The stuff that he could do with those two, I think would be just amazing.
Definitely, and that goes to show that even if Devin Booker did request a trade or is planning on requesting a trade, that Phoenix is probably not going to grant him that right now, and they're going to try to, like I said, build off what they had last year. Get that point guard in there and hopefully maybe convince him to stay over the next couple of years. I think it'll be tough with his two best friends down there in Minnesota, but to get into the playoffs and things starting to look up, especially building off last year, I think they can maybe convince him to stay.
Yeah, for sure. I did hear things that like the Minnesota Timberwolves were trying to acquire Devin Booker in a trade for that first pick, but with that news coming out, I mean, it seems like a long shot now, and you could see good things happening in Phoenix. I'd be very excited for the Phoenix Suns moving forward. I'm already excited for them based on what I saw in the bubble, even though, I want to see a bigger sample size than that because, sometimes these you can get fooled by these performances like it's preseason. But, I'm definitely encouraged by what I've seen from them, over the season as a whole and what Monty Williams has done. And like I said, getting Chris Paul in there is going to be pretty big for them.
Yeah, definitely going to take them over the top. I think that's definitely the piece that they've been needing. They need that veteran. They need that point guard next to Devin Booker. DeAndre Ayton, the young big man, is going to need a good veteran point guard like Chris Paul. I think who's going to be tough for it. One, I guess it depends if Chris Paul wants to go there, but I think the situation sounds kind of – it's not maybe not a championship situation, but I think like it's a great situation for Chris Paul to go. So I think he might be open to it. The Bucks – they might be I know they were going to be heavy after kind of Chris Paul, and they need to kind of make some changes over there. So I think that'll kind of be tough for them. So it's interesting, but I like the move. I think Phoenix is the reports about Devin Booker maybe wanting to go to Minnesota and the trade thing, I think, kind of put them on the hot seat, so they know that maybe they can't rest, and they kind of got to improve the team and things like that. So I think it might have been good. So I think this is a great trade if they can get it done.
Yeah, man, most def, most def. If you're Chris Paul, like, why wouldn't you want to embrace that? Like, to have a player with the talent of Devin Booker and know that you can put the ball in his hands late to get you a big shot, and a kid like DeAndre Ayton, another number one pick, who, we see a pretty high ceiling for him as well. It's and like we said before, Monty Williams, it's a good situation to be in. More NBA news here. From ESPN's own Adrian Wojnarowski, which was the NBA's Board of Governor call was underway at the time of this tweet. Teams are expected to soon approve by vote the amended CBA negotiated with the NBA Players Association. This clears the way for new salary cap and financial rules to start the 2020-2021 league season. And about an hour later, he put it out there that the vote had been passed. So, with this new amended CBA getting ready to go underway, what are you thinking for the league moving forward?
I think it's something that had to be kind of done with all the kind of the losses took with the COVID and things like that, the break in the season and things like that. So I guess it kind of had to be done. I don't know. Are they extending it? Is this like a new deal? Because I know the deal was kind of expiring and maybe in a year or so anyway. So maybe I think it's too tough to tell right now. They said we talked about all the losses that they kind of took because of the virus, but I think a new deal is going to have to be put in place because the owners are losing a lot of money and kind of the league lost a lot of money. So it's great that they were able to work it out. I guess we'll have to see more kind of what's being done in the deal, but it's something I guess that had to happen because of the money loss.
Yeah, when this is the way that it was explained from Tim Bontemps. The salary cap, which is $109.1 million, and the luxury tax, which is $132.7 million, will remain the same next season. In future seasons, the cap and tax will increase by a minimum of 3% and a maximum of 10%. Besides the salary cap and luxury tax remaining the same this season as they were in the 1920 season, there will be a reduction in the luxury tax bill for teams at the end of the season based off the percentage BRI decreased from initial projections during the 2020-21 season. And then I know that's when Wo just said that talks were opening up about the NBA's transaction window, trades, contract opt-ins and whatnot. Because after this news was put out there, we have more news about free agency getting ready to start. Free agency is going to start at 6 p.m. on November 20th, with signings allowed at 12:01 p.m. by November 22nd. And the schedule will be, like I said, that what I told you. And then for the 2020-21 season, I already read that already. That's just Shams tweet. But yeah, that's you get the point.
Yeah, so I think it kind of made sense. I think that the salary cap was supposed to go up each year because of the deal. So them leaving it kind of where it's at is just due to the losses taken. So I think everything kind of makes sense. Just like I said, with all the money that's been lost over the years. So it'd be interesting to see how things go moving forward, and maybe if if money starts, when the economy and things get back to normal, if things start going up, if they kind of try to restructure the deal again.
Yeah, and I'll give you just one more example before we move on from this, and this is also from Bobby Marks of ESPN, just an example that he gave. If Golden State used the $17.2 million trade exception and revenue decreased by 30%, they could save close to $50 million. This is something that's going to help out the Warriors. It's going to help out the Boston Celtics, the Brooklyn Nets, Philadelphia, and possibly even Milwaukee. So it's, like you said, it was something that you felt had to get done. Pretty much agree with everything going on.
Yeah, and I think because it'd be tough to kind of get, have teams pay that those extra dollars in the luxury tax after all the losses that they kind of took. So I think they kind of had to lessen that bill a little bit. So yeah, there's things that had to be done because of unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah. Before we get on to like the next thing, I want to give a shout out to Sam Presti. With that news just coming out, like number one, this dude is not afraid to go for it. And I wish I would have asked Eric or brought this up to Eric Horn when we had him on here. Like, you know, that dude gets things done without anybody even knowing. Like, we didn't even know that they were talking to Indiana about bringing in Paul George. It just came out and happened. We didn't know that they were talking to the New York Knicks about bringing Carmelo Anthony. It just happened. Even when they got Oladipo, nobody knew about that. That news just came out. Victor Oladipo is getting traded to Oklahoma City. And when they got rid of these guys, you didn't hear a peep until it happened. That Paul George just got traded to the Clippers. Russell Westbrook just got traded to the Houston Rockets. So like the way that organization is run is, top notch, an exemplary job by those people over there. I just wish that they would have never moved from Seattle because, maybe a lot more good things to be happening for them if they were in a more attractive market.
Yeah, definitely a bigger market. Maybe a lot of things would have been different, but we're not gonna get into that. But yeah, definitely. I think the people around him deserve a good shout out too. Just like they're able to, no one has no leaks, no sources or things like that. So they've been able to keep things in tight. And like you said, Sam Presti deserves a shout out just for all the things he's done. He's made a few mistakes, but everyone makes mistakes. So, but he's still one of the best to do it right now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So next week we got the NBA draft coming up, talking about all this NBA news with the season getting ready to happen November 22nd and whatnot. Still no clear-cut favorite on who the number one pick's going to be. We've heard that Minnesota would like to possibly trade it. It doesn't seem very likely with the news that just came out on here. We've heard that Golden State would like to trade their second pick to get an established guy in there to put together with the Splash Brothers and whatnot. But I mean, for the show's sake, let's forget about trades and everything. Let's go with what we got. You got James Wiseman, you got Anthony Edwards, you got LaMelo Ball. Like, who could it possibly be? I mean, it seems like you have your point guard in D'Angelo Russell over in Minnesota. You got Karl Anthony Towns, so maybe you want to bring that two guard in there. It's tough because I've heard, some possible character issues with Anthony Edwards and whatnot. And then on LaMelo Ball's side, we've heard that he hasn't performed the best in the workouts that he's had. I doubt that they'd go after James Wiseman since they already got Towns. So you figure it'd be between one of those two. I don't know. I feel like both of those guys could have success with that team. Like a LaMelo Ball is an interchangeable piece. You can play him on ball, off ball. And the way the game is played today, it's kind of a free-flowing game, positionless basketball. So I don't even think it really matters. But I guess I'd probably take Anthony Edwards with that number one pick over him.
I've been hearing a lot of rumors. I guess seeing a lot of rumors on Twitter and things like that. That LaMelo Ball's in kind of the spot to get taken number one, which would be interesting to me. For the Wolves is kind of what do they view D'Angelo Russell as? Do they want him on ball all the time, or do they want him at the two? If you want him at the two, maybe a little more, then I think LaMelo Ball is the pick. I think if you want him at the one, if you think he's that point guard, then you go Anthony Edwards. If I was them, I'd probably go LaMelo Ball. I think getting another playmaker over there. I always liked D'Angelo Russell at the two, kind of from the beginning. When I remember watching him in college, he was really a two. I like him at the two. He definitely can pass, but I kind of see him more kind of like a Harden. Like he's a scorer who's a good passer. You can play him at the point if you really need to. But I think LaMelo Ball fit. I think LaMelo Ball. The question with him is his jump shot. We've seen kind of throughout his whole career that he's really able to shoot. He just has that kind of awkward release and things like that. I think if you can get him in there and get his shot down packed, then you kind of have two great shooters in the backcourt. Anthony Edwards gives you like another scorer. I don't think if LaMelo Ball is the shooter that we think he can be, I don't think Anthony Edwards is ever going to be that type of shooter. I think he'll be a great scorer. So I think that'd kind of work out to have D'Angelo. You still have two great passers back there. You have two great players who can space the floor out and things like that. So I think that would definitely help open up the paint for Karl Anthony Towns, and then open up the paint for each other when one of them wants to drive because the other one's in the corner. You can kind of space the court out. And then they're both still great passers, so anything can kind of happen.
I don't necessarily disagree with everything you said. I think you made a lot of strong points there. But I will say this about D'Angelo Russell, though. As talented as he's been from, high school to college into the league, the most success he ever had was that last year in Brooklyn when, everybody went down and like, all right, D'Lo, we're going to put the ball in your hands. So once he really got to play more on ball, we really got to see the great stuff from him. So I guess from that instance, if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves, you just traded, a significant amount of assets to bring him over there and team him up with Cat. You want to make sure you put him in the best position possible. So, you mentioned him possibly playing off ball. I don't know if that would be the best thing from him based on what we've seen from him so far in his career in the league.
That's true, but when he first came into the league with the Lakers, they kind of gave him the ball and told him go be that point guard too. So I guess he's kind of had both. I think it's kind of, I guess with the Lakers, he had a lot of more young talent, things like that. With the Nets, like you brought up, people kind of went down, so they kind of looked at him to do all the scoring. I think if you flip it over to Minnesota, he has Karl Anthony Towns, he has whoever this number one pick is going to be. So he's not going to maybe be in that same exact role, and it kind of be more maybe towards the Lakers role where it's like you got to get yours and still get for other people. With the Nets, it was kind of like you're the last person here, so you get yours and let everyone fit around you. But with the Timberwolves, it might have to be like you have to be able to juggle both of them. So it'd be interesting to see. Like I said, I think he could possibly do more. Like I said, it's up to the Timberwolves to decide what they think he really is. But even with LaMelo Ball there, I think it's really just two combo guards, so it's still interchangeable.
Yeah, I mean, even like with them, they could possibly look to go with my man over at Dayton instead of taking a guard. So I mean, they've got options there.
Yeah, and you also could trade the pick. Like you said, for Devin Booker's an option, but we don't know if that's an option anymore. But like even trading the pick is still an option on the table to maybe get a veteran, maybe wing player in there. I think they could probably use like a small forward. They can get like a veteran wing in there that can definitely come help them out. I mean, maybe if you think D'Lo's the two, why not go after Chris Paul? I don't know if he want to be in Minnesota, but Chris Paul would be a great option. I don't know. I guess maybe number one pick for Chris Paul maybe seem like a little far-fetched. But if you think D'Lo's a two, Chris Paul's a great option. And then maybe you maybe work in a 3-team trade, try to get Chris Paul and a nice veteran wing over there. Then you got maybe like a solid starting five.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely options there. You mentioned trading the pick. I was just looking at a mock draft where they even have Detroit, trading all the way up to number one to take LaMelo Ball. He's definitely been linked. He's been linked to Detroit pretty heavy. So,
and Detroit's trading who? Blake Griffin.
First of all, if that were to happen, I don't know how much I'd like that for Minnesota, but.
Yeah, it's all like who they traded to move up like that. Maybe they'll trade that. I don't know what pick Detroit has, but I'm sure they have a top 10 pick. Trade that
with they're saying this deal could look something like number 1 in James Johnson for number 7 Detroit's 2022 first round pick, maybe with protections, and Tony Snell.
You move down a little bit, get another pick for next year. I guess it's not too bad. I don't know.
And then they have them taking Isaac Okoro with that pick that they got moving down, which isn't bad. Isaac Okoro is a pretty good player himself.
Yeah, I kind of like my Chris Paul option, and then you get a veteran wing in there. I guess I don't have no solid veteran wings. I mean, you can keep Gallo. If they can get Gallo on a sign and trade and bring Chris Paul over there, so now you got Chris Paul, D'Lo, whoever's at the 3, Gallo stretching the floor with Karl Anthony Towns. That's solid. They might. I'll pick them and get in like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess then you're trading your number 1 pick for a whole bunch of veterans, kind of. But maybe you also try to. OKC has so many picks. Maybe try to snag 2 or 3 picks for them, and maybe get a pick for next year. Maybe their later pick this year. There's a lot of things that can go around. There's so many options where that could happen. So, so many options that can happen. It's crazy.
I'll tell you this: what's been shocking to me the entire draft process is hearing that Cole Anthony and RJ Hampton can fall outside of the lottery, especially because Cole Anthony didn't really have a great college season. He dealt with injuries and everything at UNC. RJ Hampton, they made a very big deal out of him, throughout his recruiting process and everything. And when he decided that he was going to play overseas, we know that these are two very talented players. But just I need to speak to some people to see like what's going on here. I admittedly I haven't gotten a chance to really watch RJ Hampton enough with him playing overseas. But just to hear how much he's fallen, like that's very shocking to me.
And I think that's the problem. People haven't been able to see him. It's one of those things where it's like kind of out of sight, out of mind type of things. People like going overseas. Sometimes that just happens to you. I think Brandon Jennings dropped a little bit. I can't think of his name. He's on the Thunder. My God, I can't think of his name right now. He dropped because he went overseas too. So sometimes when you see the guys go overseas, it's kind of like an out of sight, out of mind thing. I think RJ Hampton dealt with a couple of injuries while he was over there too, which isn't always great. But I guess if you look at it on the other side, LaMelo Ball was there and his stock is still high. But sometimes it's like a kind of out of sight, out of mind type of thing. So that could be an option. I don't know how he's performing in his workouts and things like that. As far as Cole Anthony, I had talked about that. I think he'll be a great fit with the Knicks. The Knicks need a point guard, so shout out
They
to the
did.
Knicks.
The Knicks actually have linked to French point guard Killian Hayes. He's about the only point guard I think they really him. And I've heard they've had interest in this kid from Alabama, but
Oh yeah, I know you're talking about. I forgot his name right now. I know you're talking about them. Yeah.
really it's just been those 2 point guards and then a lot of different wings. So
I don't think Cole Anthony's bad. Like you say, he was just hurt for most of the season. So it's kind of like I think when he played well. Brandon Marks, when he came on here and talked to me, he talked about just how he didn't have any shooters around him. And for someone that's not a great shooter, just wasn't. It was just a bad year for North Carolina altogether. I think Karl Anthony Towns in the league, he'll be, if you put him in the right spots and things like that, I think he'll be great. So he's still athletic, and things like that. So I think the Knicks should go after him. Brendan Marks talked about how he thinks the Nets maybe go after him, so he may be able to stay in New York. He's from New York. So I think for him, it's just injuries kind of slowed him down a little bit.
yeah, I mean he's a New York guy. Like back here in New York, we haven't really had a top. Like he's the first high level basketball player we've had in like a few years, coming from the high school level anyway. And, you talk about him being from New York. His dad was, a highly respected player for the New York Knicks back in his day when they were battling with the Chicago Bulls and the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference and whatnot. So he comes from a good pedigree and all that. We know that the talent is there. I guess it's just a matter of getting in the right space and not just that, but making sure that you can keep him limited from dealing with these injuries. So they have him mocked to Orlando, which I thought was interesting, the way that Markelle Fultz had actually played for them. I thought that you'd be able to just throw him in at point guard moving forward and let him continue to get to the level that you believe he could be. But
Yeah, I think he'll be a steal if you get him in the right fit. I think, like you said, North Carolina, which is a tough year for them all around. He was hurt for most of the year, so again, I don't know what scouts have been saying about him and his workouts and things like that so far. We know he isn't the greatest shooter, but I think he could be a steal late in the draft.
yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's a couple guys in this draft that could be steals. Like you mentioned RJ Hampton too, Obi Toppin from Dayton. They had him. I actually seen him mocked a lot to Minnesota, and in this CBS mock, I saw that he was actually linked to Washington. So there's there's a few guys here. I'm gonna be like looking to see like where exactly do they fall. And that Washington to be able to land in Washington if they're gonna keep going with Bradley Beal and John Wall is an interesting situation for some of these young guys too.
Yeah, I think Obi Toppin is. I think for him, he's kind of getting hit with that "you're a little too old" type of thing, which is kind of like some teams may not want to take him because he's a little older. You may want to take someone else who's maybe a little younger. So yeah, I think that's where he fits. I think everyone knows he's a solid player and kind of knows what he can bring. He's probably maybe one of the most ready players right now. I just think teams like Charlotte, who's been kind of bad with drafting and in the past. I think they want to go after someone maybe a little younger or more with more potential and things like that. So I think that's kind of where Hurts will be topping a little bit. But I think like the right fit, I think not the right fit, but like the right team, if they get him, he's going to be perfect. Like I said, I think he's the most probably ready player right now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So that the draft is Wednesday. We'll try and get to you guys before then and kind of talk to you about what we've been hearing and all that. Maybe get some articles out there beforehand too. We'll see. But yeah, man, you got anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, I think that's it for the week.
For sure, man. So that was Kayson, it's Rich, and that was your weekly rundown. We'll see you guys next week.